and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Everybody, and welcome to Gay USA. I'm Ann Northrup.
And I'm Chris Cooper, sitting in for Andy Hum.
Yes, Andy is away for a few weeks, so I have the delight, I'm really happy about this, that it turned out that I could share this desk with a bunch of our best substitute co-hosts.
It's like your farewell tour.
It is. Last week, Jay Walker. This week, you. Next week, Kathy Marino. And then the return of Andy for my final show. It's an extravaganza. And I am happy to report I have nothing to report on the medical front this week. Just looking forward to a little reparative surgery once I get through doing the show so that I will just be non-lumpy.
Non-lumpy is a goal.
Anything personal you'd like to throw into this?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay.
Well, God knows we have enough news to cover, so we should get on with it. And shocking but true, I have to say, when I first heard this, I thought it was a joke.
I bought it.
The very anti-gay, very closeted gay Senator Lindsey Graham is suddenly dead. And a sex worker is talking about their history.
Meanwhile, in Maine, Graham Platner has resigned as the Democratic Senate candidate, and that's perhaps less shocking.
Yes. Yes. Donald Trump here, this is actually a little shocking, finally paid that first $5 million to E. Jean Carroll. Now we have to see whether he's going to still owe her the $83 million that was also put out in a judgment against him.
Trump's Department of Health and Human Services backs down, kind of, on the threats to the hospitals that provide care to trans youth.
And our relentless Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, is blocking more admiral appointments in the Navy, promotions for women and black people.
Ann and Jay told you last week about the Florida trans teen who was in an Irish dance competition, and she has dropped out.
Very sad. Also very sad to hear that an out gay mayor in a town in Mexico was assassinated.
Patti LuPone continues on her cruise to nowhere, the Atlantis cruise that was barred from taking port in Turkey. Taking port? Landing port? Whatever. Landing in Turkey. Was also rejected by Egypt.
Now, we don't know for sure that Patty's still on the ship.
But metaphorically.
Yes, of course, and she is speaking out. And Andy's favorite production, Heartstopper, the movie version, Heartstopper Forever, is now on Netflix as of Friday, so depending on when you're seeing this. So those are the headlines. We're going to cover that and a lot more this week. And Lindsey Graham has got to be at the top of the list. What a mess. And it falls to this show to discuss his LGBT life and rejection of us because mainstream media will not cover this. They talk about him being complicated. They talk about him being never married. They talk about his sister being appointed to his Senate seat. But nowhere have you heard the word gay in the mainstream media.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned, the term never married. I haven't even seen that in most of the obits I've read. They just cruise past any sort of personal life whatsoever in what I've read, and with no mention except for the sister, which they never do in obituaries.
Half and half. I've seen never married. But here's the thing. He has been known to be a closet case gay for decades. There was a sex worker who talked about him having employed sex workers years ago. A guy named Sean, I didn't write down his last name, but you can look it up. And now here, this is Jesse James Rose that you see on the screen with a picture of Lindsey Graham. Jesse James Rose is also a sex worker and has come out with a whole long description of sex acts performed with Graham, saying that she did unspeakable things to Graham while he was in red lingerie for fat wads of cash, and talked about the complicated feelings of having people like Graham support her life with all this money to stay closeted, and how torn she is about having financial security by supporting this closeted life.
Now, I don't doubt for a second that Lindsey Graham was a closet case. But how much credence are we to put into this account? I mean, did she show up with receipts to say, hey, look, really and truly, this is it. This is what because really anybody could claim to have.
They could, but it's not the first claim. And it's been, this kind of activity has been rumored for a long time. I believe it. You don't have to believe it. Receipts, what? An actual signed receipt?
No, but you know what I mean.
The red lingerie?
Some sort of documentation or proof, or, like a hotel, I don't know, whatever.
I don't know. A witness, something. You're right. It's we're taking Jesse James Rose on faith, but I think it's absolutely believable. And whether it is or not, here's the real crux of the matter. And this is why I'm angry, particularly at the mainstream media. Lindsey Graham, closet case, doesn't want to talk about his gay life. Fine. I'm not the judgment police. I'm not saying he shouldn't have done that. I would have liked him to be out. But here's the real thing. He was one of the most anti-LGBT senators in the United States Congress. He voted against everything. He voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. He voted against the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. He voted against repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell for the military. Every time he had a chance to vote on our issues, he was on the wrong side. And this was, I guess, his way of covering his tracks. I don't know. I didn't talk to him about it. It may be just what he thought the voters needed so that he could stay in office and retain power. But it was just a disgusting display of treachery for the people who should have been his people.
Well, we are often our own worst enemy. I am not a fan of outing people, but I believe in it in two cases. Number one, when they're dead, and number two, when they're hypocrites. And in this case, it applies in both situations.
And to me, the issue, and Jesse James Rose talked about this in their Instagram post or whatever that was, about the fact that people who have power, people who are in public office, have a duty not to be closeted and not to act against the best interests of their LGBTQ plus community. That's the dividing line for a lot of us. If Lindsey Graham is a private citizen, damn him, but I don't feel a need to condemn any of his sexual proclivities. But if he is exercising power as a public figure, as an elected official, that's where the line is drawn. And those are the people who I believe should be outed along the way. And we have certainly talked about him as a closeted gay man for many, many, many years. And I have no hesitation about that. And I think we did the right thing. And I remain really furious at the mainstream media that they have not talked about that. It's not even that they didn't talk about the rumors. It's that they didn't talk about his voting record and tie that in. So,
well, there's a general whitewashing going on. The one thing they have talked about, because how could you not, is the fact that Lindsey Graham was actively opposed to Trump until he wasn't. And then he did this a complete 180 and ended up as the biggest suck-up to Trump on the planet, with one exception, Ukraine.
Well, and here's the picture that I refer to as Lindsey and his boyfriend. There they are on the golf course. Yeah, I mean, he totally ditched his best friend, John McCain, when Trump did, and Lindsey wanted to retain power. It was just a really disgusting display. So what do we got here?
There's a statement from Michael Wolff, a journalist, that
yes.
really sums up the nature of Lindsey Graham and his power in Washington.
Let's read this. History will long note Lindsey Graham as one of the emblematic figures of Trump politics. He, like so many others, but with even more shamelessness, understood that the key to political survival was to disregard all self-respect and all personal scruples and become a Donald Trump suck-up. Lindsey is the model for J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and so many others. He was a South Carolina Republican who, while being in the closet, but not in the closet enough so that everyone in Washington didn't know, perfected the art of political survival.
He continues, and then Trump came along and held Lindsey's gayness as a threat over his head. Lindsey understood that he had to be a Trump lackey. That was necessary for him to exist in Trump's Washington. Of course, now dead at 71, Lindsey didn't survive after all. All that should give other Trump toadies pause. Everybody thinks that they can outweight him and do whatever it takes to get beyond Trump so they can eventually do something better with their lives and careers. But to date, whether feet first or otherwise, nobody has.
Thank you, Michael Wolff. That's the one of the few semi-mainstream comments that I think nailed it. So now the question is, who is going to replace him and how's that going to happen? You've been investigating how the vote is going to take place.
Yeah, it's really interesting and maybe offer some of our viewers in South Carolina an opportunity. Because they're going to have a special election on August 11th, a special, basically, do-over of the Republican primary.
So, yes, and this will be a primary for the general election in November because his term was up, and so he was running for re-election.
Exactly. So his sister has been appointed to fill out the rest of his term, which runs until January. But in the meantime, they've got to elect somebody to be next. So they're doing basically a do-over of the Republican primary. But in South Carolina, primaries are open. So anybody can vote in the South Carolina Republican primary, no matter what your party affiliation is. The only restriction is that you can't vote in more than one primary for the election cycle. So basically what it means is that if you voted in the 2026 Democratic primary for U.S. Senator, then you can't vote in this upcoming runoff for the Republican nominee. But everybody else gets to vote in that Republican runoff, whether they're Republican or not. So there's a real opportunity if you're a South Carolina voter who, is left-leaning or a Democrat, but you didn't vote in the Democratic primary. I'm not encouraging that kind of behavior. But if you happen to not have voted, you have an opportunity now to vote in that upcoming primary and maybe steer it towards a candidate who's less radically right-wing than Lindsey Graham was. Now, we don't know who the nominees are yet, but, pick the least evil of them because more than likely South Carolina is going to elect a Republican, and let's try to soften that blow a bit.
Well, the Democrats have a good candidate in the general election in November, this woman who I think is quite popular. So maybe you vote in the primary for the candidate most likely to lose.
No, we're not doing that.
Why not?
Because it's South Carolina, and they're probably going to elect a Republican anyway, and why do you want to send somebody who's horrible?
Well, we've already had someone who's horrible, and we're going to have another one who's horrible.
Well, that's the idea, is to make it less horrible. So anyway, you
figure it out. Yeah. But if you are a Democrat or independent in South Carolina who did not vote in the Democratic primary, you can vote now in this new primary.
August 11th.
Okay. P.S. Mitch McConnell is a closet case also. What can I tell you?
P.S. Mitch McConnell is apparently still alive.
Well, I don't. See, that's the one I don't believe. That could easily be a lie.
The memes were delicious. Yes. There was one of, Han Solo frozen in carbonite from Empire Strikes Back, and Mitch McConnell's face.
Well, if you're going to fake something, I think Mitch McConnell being alive would be an easy one to fake. Who knows? I don't know. That's just a random thought. I'm not even proposing that it's true, just a thought. But he is a closet case. All right. Next of men behaving badly is Graham Platner. Now, Graham Platner, there's a case for you.
I don't have much to say about Graham Platner except next.
Well, this is why I chose a picture of his campaign posters just strewn on the floor, because that's about where he is. I never liked him. I'm happy he's out. I know people thought his platform was amazing. Fine. But he was just a horrible, horrible human being.
I think the thing to focus on is replacing Susan Collins, the very concerned woman of Maine, whose concerns never turn into any sort of palpable action.
Well, this awful ICE killing this week in Maine, I think, is not going to do her any good. Yep. And the only caveat I have on that is it's still months away from the general election. So I don't know how long that news will last, but I hope there are a lot of decent candidates for the Democratic nomination, and I don't know them well enough to really, except that there is this gay guy, Jordan Wood, who seems to be a good guy.
I don't know them either, but we shouldn't mention the latest victim of ICE brutality without saying his name, which is Juan Sebastian Guerrero. So.
Yes, and what a tragic story. Yeah. Tragic. They're out there killing people in the streets. I'm happy to see that, Joe Scarborough did a 20-minute rant this morning on Morning Joe about the horrors of what the ICE people are doing, killing people in the streets. And the more we hear things like that, I hope we will come closer to getting rid of them. Anyway, Platner out.
But in better news,
yes,
Trump finally had to pay up to E. Jean Carroll over $5.5 million that had been sitting, accumulating interest because he lost his case, but was constantly appealing and appealing and appealing. This was his molestation case. I guess technically they could not call it rape. But the jury took about 3 hours to find him guilty, and that was several years ago. And it's been going through appeals ever since, and finally Trump had no more recourse. No
more recourse. He still thinks he can get around this.
He does. He wants the Supreme Court to reconsider, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
But yes, he was. What happened was that he talks about, this was way past the statute of limitations. They never should have allowed this. Well, in New York, they passed a law a few years ago that extended the statute of limitations for sexual assault cases, and this was aimed mainly at the victims of priests, and gave on the understanding that it takes people time to grapple with this enough and what happened to them to be able to come forward and try to get justice. So she fell into that, and she could come forward and say, I was attacked by the President of the United States. I was sexually assaulted in a dressing room at Bergdorf's. And
he responded, she's not my type.
Yes, and I've never met her. And the jury convicted him very quickly of sexual assault and defamation, and awarded her $5 million, and the interest is accumulated to make it 5.6. And then he just went crazy defaming her all over the place. Yep. And so she went back to court with Robbie Kaplan, our
great
heroic
lesbian lawyer.
Exactly. Have we shown the picture of them? Show it again if you can. A new case, there they are. There's Robbie on the left and E. Jean in the middle. That's when they won one of their verdicts. That's in federal court, I think, in Manhattan. But the second case, Trump was so horrible that she was now awarded $83 million. And that is
still being adjudicated.
Yeah, well, the five, he's had to put that in escrow or whatever. so that it's available. And yeah, he's appealing that, and that's going to take another few years.
His ego just couldn't take it, and he couldn't keep his mouth shut about it.
Oh my God!
But
Well,
that's part of your men behaving badly thing. It's that fragile male ego that has to assert itself. On.
Well, that was an interesting thing that came up this week. Lucian Truscott IV, who is a longtime writer, out gay, was at Stonewall, I think. Wrote a Substack column. Have you got the title? Here it is. Platner and Trump and for too many men like him, conditioned to dehumanize and rape women. And that is the story for a lot of men, not all men. And it's the culture we're living in, and I can't tell you how depressing it is to women.
Well, I'll tell you the poster child for it to me is Pete Hegseth, who seems to feel the need to prove his manhood by just doing horrible things to women and minorities. But we'll get to that.
Well, we can get to that now.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, as I call him, Secretary of War and Manhood, Pete Hegseth, who has absolutely no experience with either, is busy yet again inserting himself into the promotions process in the military, which previously has been virtually unheard of. It's only in cases of extreme malfeasance or impropriety that a very sort of carefully vetted promotion process was ever invalidated by the head of the military. And yet he's inserted himself in again to prevent the promotions of primarily a group of women and some minorities. And
with no accountability. None.
No accountability, no explanation. And basically, he is decimating the ranks of the Admiralty from women. There are for the first time,
zero.
There are zero women admirals rising up in the ranks.
And when asked about what these people have done wrong, that they would be removed from the promotion ranks by the New York Times, his response was, "The New York Times has a toxic obsession with race and identity." No, you're the one who has a toxic obsession with race and identity.
It's incredible because the world is upside down with this crew. It's like black is white, up is down, and they're saying in the name of DEI we are stopping these things. When what they're really doing is old school racial discrimination and sex discrimination.
Completely, they're the ones who are practicing DEI, but from the point of view of white supremacy.
Yep.
And there they are. And then, just on a minor footnote to all this, Ken Paxton, the gift that keeps on giving. Ken Paxton was in London on the 4th of July. He's running for the Senate from Texas, and he chooses the 4th of July to go to London with his mistress. Have a lovely time, Ken.
You just got to laugh. Of all the places to pick.
Oh, my God.
It's like, we fought a war to get our independence from them, and that's where you go.
Well, this is the men who act like this are so oblivious, so entitled, so arrogant, so uncaring of anybody, so cruel, so bullying. We know the list of his sins towards our community and everybody else. Yeah. All right, well, since we've now spent a major portion of the show on this, we should probably move on.
All right, well, in good news, as it is, the Health and Human Services Department has backed down from its plan to make healthcare for trans youth inaccessible. Now, what they were going to do was they were going to say that any hospital that provides a gender-affirming care to trans youth would be completely cut off from all Medicare and Medicaid funds.
Speaking of cruel.
Yeah, that's a death sentence for basically any hospital.
It is.
So it was a way of basically coercing every hospital to not treat trans kids.
So this was a rule they had proposed. They got 30,000 comments on this rule, and they have backed down. But The comments, and not only did the public comment, but the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Children's Hospital Association, courts have ruled this inappropriate, but they backed down for the moment. The Department of Justice is continuing to pursue some of these hospitals as inappropriate.
Well, and more importantly, Health and Human Services is continuing to pursue a rule that would provide Medicare funds from being used for gender-affirming care. Yeah. In other words, rather than saying, oh, we're not going to give you any of the Medicare money you're entitled to, they're going to say, well, you can't use it for this, the way they do with abortion.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what they're still pursuing. But you're right, there are other assaults going on from the Justice Department, which has been investigating use of puberty blockers as somehow possibly a violation of federal law. The Federal Trade Commission is still going after trans issues by going after an organization that sets the standards for transgender patients in care, saying that they are somehow making false and unsubstantiated claims to parents.
HHS now says it will support procreation but not contraception.
The Food and Drug Administration is even getting in on the act, saying that, manufacturers of chest binders have to go through a medical certification process. So it's not the end of the assault, but it is the worst of it.
Well, we got a few more here. Trump and his minions are continuing to attack the National Museum of American History, part of the Smithsonian, as too DEI focused. And one of their examples of this is that the museum has Billie Jean King's tennis dress from her competition with Bobby Riggs, for heaven's sake.
Awful. Awful.
Because white straight males are the dominant culture, and acknowledging anyone else is DEI. Well, we can't even exist.
You may notice a pattern here, and in particularly with the threat that was made to withhold all Medicare and Medicaid funds if any hospital did any gender-affirming care for trans kids. It's the same tactic they used on the universities. We will withhold all funding for your university if you participate, if there's something we don't like.
Exactly. And tell us about what's going on with the National Monuments and the Endangered Species Act and all of that.
All right. Well, just as Trump's Supreme Court has gutted the Voting Rights Act, now his Department of the Interior is gutting the Endangered Species Act. What they've said is, what they've done is very simple. Despite decades of precedent of how they interpret the word harm, they're saying, no. The word harm, that you can't harm a creature on the endangered species list, the word harm now means directly harming them. So you can build on their habitat, you can, destroy their entire environment, their food sources, as long as you haven't, broken the wing of a piping plover, you're okay.
Oh, God.
I mean, the equivalent, It basically means the Endangered Species Act is meaningless. Fortunately, they've just filed a lawsuit to try to prevent that. But I mean, it's the equivalent of saying, hey, you know what? We're going to burn down your house. We're going to take away your job. And we're going to clean out your refrigerator and your cupboards of all food. But that's not harming you unless we shoot you or in some other way cause you physical harm.
And they've just gone back to taking away 90% of the national monuments in Utah. The Bear's Ears and the whatever the other one.
Grand Staircase Escalante.
Yes, and they say they're doing it to help people because they're going to allow mining and development in those areas. Those are, I love Utah for how beautiful it is. It is the most gorgeous place, and to think that those monuments are going to be devastated is just heartbreaking and disgusting and horrible.
Not to hammer a dead horse, but it goes back to your men behaving badly.
Yes.
He rapes women, and now he's looking to rape this country.
And why? Well, for money, obviously.
For money!
But, yeah. Ugh. All right. And this is why I propose there is a new study of college students where girls are geometrically more attracted to and involved with women than boys are with other boys. Girls are much more fluid and much more open to being involved with members of the same sex.
But we knew
Why not?
We knew this. We knew this all along.
Well, there's new proof.
All right. We talked about Pete Hegseth, so we can move past that.
Oh, the feds have gone into, we know they went into Georgia to grab voting records. Now they've gone into Ohio to raid the offices and homes of nonprofit organizations that help with voter registration. They've gone to people's homes who work on voter registration to seize their computers and everything else, and in the offices, because they are saying this is voter fraud to sign people up to vote.
It's like I said, black is white, up is down. Now listen, as we're taping on a Wednesday, tomorrow night, Trump will be making a nationally televised speech where he's going to make all sorts of claims about voting and about voting machines. Every single one will be a lie. Go into that, understanding that, and listen with those ears.
He's also going to suggest that Ossoff and Warnock are inappropriately elected to office and try to get rid of them.
Everything is a lie.
Yeah. All right. He's subpoenaing New York Times reporters for reporting on the deficiencies of the new Air Force One.
But meanwhile, Barry Weiss has further interfered with 60 Minutes. There was to be an interview with what's the name of that? Oh, Nigel Farage in the UK, who's a terrible right winger, and it was going to be one of their veteran journalists, Leslie Stahl, I believe, who was going to conduct the interview.
I think someone else, but go ahead.
Well, but the veteran journalist was pulled off so that someone who's much more sympathetic to the right wing would actually conduct the interview.
Here's the hint. The new one, who is newly hired at 60 Minutes as a correspondent, Sir Trevor Phillips. Does that sound like someone who's going to give Nigel Farage a hard time?
So, Barry Weiss continues to basically tarnish the once sterling reputation of CBS News.
Well, that's a longer discussion. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court, invalidated temporary protected people here. So now the administration is telling all employers they must fire all Haitians and Sudanese workers and throw them out of the country.
What color are Haitians and Sudanese, Anne?
Green.
The Supreme Court also has agreed to hear a parental rights case next term that can't end well for us with the conservative majority in control. Basically, it involves mental health and gender-affirming care access for minors without parental consent.
And they have also gotten rid of a rule that said kids in foster care, LGBTQ kids in foster care, were entitled to homes that were appropriate for them and supporting. They've cut that rule. That is no longer true. And, the youth hotline that they have restored some funding to. When Trump came into office, the calls to the youth and adult LGBTQ hotline went up 87%. The texts went up 260%. Online chats up 26%. That's just since Trump took office again. But now they're refunding that without letting the Trevor Project be involved.
Shall we talk about the trans teen in Florida?
Sure.
I don't think they've identified the teen by name, which is good for them in particular. But basically, because of the pressure, that teen dropped out of the competition. And the organization that sponsored the competition was actually quite, up until that point, as you guys mentioned last week, quite supportive.
Totally supportive.
Of trans participation.
This is a 14-year-old trans girl.
But the pressure from Ron DeSantis, from Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer, and from Florida representatives across the board. Concerned
women of America were very adamant about this. there is nothing illegal about this young woman participating in Irish dance. Where is the advantage in Irish dance for a trans girl?
So, caught in a political storm, I don't blame her for bowing out. It's a terrible shame, and one more reason not to go to Florida.
Well, that's also another question. Kristi Noem is dumping her husband, who was into bimbofication.
Wait. Is she keeping her last name, Noem? Because if she doesn't, she will no longer be Clan, Klan, Kristi Lynn Arnold Noem. I'm concerned.
Yeah, but if she doesn't go back to her birth name, she may not be able to vote. All hate crimes in California down 3.4% in spite of, claims by Trump of the violence caused by communists in these states.
But wasn't it a mixed bag in that?
Yes, sexual orientation hate crimes were down 35%, but trans hate crimes up 23.4%.
I mean, trans people are just getting hammered in this country.
Totally, completely. In Philadelphia, well, in fact, let's look at the map first. This map shows it's a trans risk map. This identifies, Aaron in the Morning published this map, great trans blogger in Montana. And the bluish states, light and darker blue, are safer for trans people. And, of course, the brown and black states there are more dangerous. You look at that and you think, man, it's hard to travel across the country without running into some real danger.
It adds a whole new level to the term flyover states, but particularly on that map where you saw the red and black bands in Texas and Florida and Idaho, those are places where you just don't want to be if you're trans.
Yeah. All right. Let me see. In Philadelphia, the cops are still looking for this guy, Jalen Melcher, who shot 3 LGBT gay men, actually, 2 of whom have died. And they think he's on a killing spree, but they have not found him yet.
If you were in the Philadelphia area, take a good look at that face.
In Utah, they're in the midst of the trial of the guy, Tyler Robinson, accused of killing Charlie Kirk. And he has a partner, a romantic partner.
Former romantic partner.
Who is formerly trans or is still trans?
No, still trans, but formerly a romantic partner.
Okay.
The last name is Twiggs. I
yes.
believe. And
Lance Twiggs.
They. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what pronoun to use. But were testifying in court in pre-hearing. Proceedings. It's not the actual trial yet.
Right, exactly. It's a hearing to decide whether to go to trial. And they have a lot of evidence against this guy, but he's still pleading not guilty and really trying to avoid a death penalty sentence.
Meanwhile, speaking again of trans people and how they're getting hammered these days, that came up in the Massachusetts Senate debate, Democratic Senate debate, where the incumbent, Senator Ed Markey, is being challenged by a Congressman, Seth Moulton, who basically threw trans people under the bus at one point, and said, oh, yeah, I don't want my daughters getting run over by a boy on the playing field or formerly male athlete on the playing field. And so now he's trying to walk that back, because he's in liberal Massachusetts and running for higher office, and he got hammered for it in the debate, and Markey would not let him squirm away from it. So.
And in neighboring New Hampshire, last week or the week before, we gave Governor Kelly Ayotte, Republican, credit for rejecting some anti-trans bills that the legislature had passed. But now she has signed a bill that is this new classic thing of schools must inform parents if the student is expressing any interest in different gender identity or or using different pronouns. And she signed that bill to allow that, or in fact mandate it. So we're taking away our endorsement of you.
Whenever you hear the term parental rights, be suspect. It is often code for eliminating trans and gay things, or notifying parents about trans or gay things about students who might desperately need to keep those private.
And I was, I wish Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift all the best, but I really was not happy that they held the wedding at Madison Square Garden because of the owner, James Dolan, and what a monster he is. And now it turns out that we knew he surveilled people with cameras going in and out of the arena.
Facial recognition, so he could figure out, this person came here who I don't like.
Yes, including a whole raft of lawyers who had sued him, who then got barred from Madison Square Garden. Well, it turns out that he is tracking LGBTQ patrons who...
LGBTQ celebrities, because obviously,
Yes.
People who walk in, you can't tell them if they're gay or not. But if they're known celebrities...
No gaydar on the cameras?
Not yet, but AI might take over.
And he's doing this at Madison Square Garden, which he owns, and Radio City, and the Sphere in Las Vegas.
And he did it at the wedding. The wedding,
Yes.
The famous wedding.
Yep.
So.
All right. The New York State Legislature has a new raft, as we have told you, of LGBTQ members, and about 10 of them are talking about forming an LGBTQ caucus, finally, in the New York State Legislature.
Yay.
It's about time.
Meanwhile, while we're talking about New York State, Republican governor candidate Bruce Blakeman has jumped to the defense of a Catholic nursing home that's anti-LGBTQ, and Kathy Hochul is snapping back and having none of it. But it's the Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne. If you don't know who Bruce Blakeman is,
you're lucky.
You lead a blessed existence, because he is a nasty piece of work trying to be Trump too.
In Houston, they outlawed rainbow crosswalks, so now the city is going to put up rainbow banners around the city, which hallelujah. In Florida, a federal court has declared that the DeSantis' Stop Woke Act is unconstitutional because it is government trying to control the curriculum. All you need to know about the Constitution is that the government cannot abridge free speech. People think free speech means that no one can stop you from saying whatever you want. No. In the Constitution, it's all about the government not being able to do it. And here is the classic case of the government trying to do exactly that.
In the 11th Circuit's decision, they said, if the First Amendment offers any boundary of protection at all for public university classrooms, the statute crosses it.
All right, shall we talk about some people who have died?
Yes, let's do that.
All right, first of all, this Sunday, the 19th at 1:30 p.m., there is going to be a memorial vigil for Jeffrey Newman and Jason Connor Newman. This is the couple, the married couple that we have been telling you about, who invented backpacks for the streets. They have been wonderful, wonderful Good Samaritans for many, many years, helping homeless people in New York.
And they died within 4 days of each other.
They did. And they gave out 180,000 backpacks to homeless people, containing socks and wipes and toiletries and notebooks and beef jerky, which lasts. Now, on the other hand, people do have their backpacks stolen when they're living on the street, so that's something to watch out for.
Well,
but at the corner of Delancey and Forsyth Street, Sunday, 1:30 p.m., and we will link to a note about that in our show note.
Another loss, writer-publisher Jameson Currier. He was a highly regarded writer, and he died July 12th of what appears to be a heart attack. He was 70 years old, but it seems to have come out of nowhere. Well, that's not quite true, because he did write in his 2015 work, Until My Heart Stops, about his condition of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Lindsey Graham was advised to go to the hospital when he came back from Ukraine because he was complaining a little, and he refused. And it just, this whole thing about people refusing, and I continue to go back to my case. I didn't refuse, but I took much too long to have a mammogram and wound up here with a double mastectomy. And I'm happy to say that I've talked about this so much on the air that I have a number of friends, and I hope a lot of other people out there, who have gotten themselves checked. And it's so, so, so important not to say, oh, I'm not going to the hospital or I'm not doing this. It really, if you want to live, you have got to pay attention and take care of yourself and do preventive medicine.
I am guilty of being one of those refuseniks. But the other thing you have to remember is, a lot of people don't have health care.
Totally.
And so, a trip to get something checked out that may be nothing could send them into bankruptcy. So,
well, I would hope there are alternative ways to get testing of various kinds. I know there are. I don't know whether it's all available to everybody in the way it should be. But at a minimum, people who can should be getting tested for various things for whatever may be a problem. So, but Jameson Courier was a critic, a journalist, an editor, a publisher. He wrote short stories in collections like Dancing on the Moon, novels like Where the Rainbow Ends, and A Gathering Storm. Very, very highly regarded and a big loss.
And in my ancestral homeland of Long Island, Kevin Brady.
Peter Brady, isn't it?
No, I have Kevin.
Oh, it's one of the two.
Oh, boy.
38 years old.
38 years old, grew up in Levittown, lived in Astoria, Queens, but he was one of the co-founders of the LGBTQ committee.
Kevin, you're right.
Ha! No, but he was one of the co-founders of the LGBTQ committee of the Nassau County Bar Association out on Long Island. And so, that's a loss of a great activist who did something to push things forward.
Colorectal cancer at 38. Yeah.
No, it's awful.
All right.
Unfortunately, then we've got some real sort of violence, political violence, possibly. That you can't say for sure yet. And that's coming out of Mexico, where Benjamin Medrano was murdered, the first gay mayor in Mexico. He wasn't identified for 2 days. It happened on July 7th.
He was in Guadalajara in an ice cream shop. He didn't have any ID on him. His hometown was Fresnillo.
Well, Fresnillo is where he was the mayor of. He was the mayor of Fresnillo,
Yes.
the largest city in Zacatecas.
Okay, but he was, my point being, he wasn't there. He was in Guadalajara,
Right.
and therefore he was not immediately identified for a couple of days.
And it wasn't a random shooting. A gunman came in wearing a motorcycle helmet behind him, shot him in the head, and then left and got on a motorcycle and rode off. So that sounds like a targeted assassination.
Clearly targeted. Now, drug gangs, gay, who knows?
Right.
But he was an out gay man who was elected mayor of his town, and that's a huge loss and a terrible story.
He was 59 years old.
In Northern Ireland, we told you about the 2019 killing of journalist Lyra McKee in the middle of a riot in Derry, and they had put 3 guys on trial for this murder, but for assisting in the murder, not for being the actual gunman.
Right, they have yet to identify the actual gunman.
And these guys were just acquitted.
Yeah.
She was a great hero journalist, and it's taken 7 years to even get to this point.
And unfortunately, no justice yet.
And out lesbian, that's
no justice
the point
yet
here.
for her widow.
Yep. In Norfolk, England, the local government has banned pride displays at libraries on the grounds that there should be no political messaging. I've never understood how these people with a straight face can call rainbow displays or mentions of LGBTQ people or any of that political. It's just people being people.
Yeah, I mean, by that standard, then a whole bunch of other things become political as well that they would never call political. And while we're in the UK, we might as well talk about J.K. Rowling.
Ugh.
At it again, this time because Amnesty International UK published a list of anti-trans groups and called them anti-rights in the release. They objected to that, and so they threatened to sue. And J.K. Rowling said, any of you groups that want to sue them for doing that, I'll back you financially 100%. So basically, she's aiming to bankrupt Amnesty International UK.
It always surprises me. I know what her views are, and I kind of expect her to just have those views and get on with her life. But she is quite aggressive.
Very.
About coming after trans people. Not shy about it.
Nope. And while we're talking about the UK, this is actually in a former colony. In my ancestral homeland, my mom's side, Trinidad, they successfully overturned the sodomy ban there. But then it got...
So it's banned again?
Well, no, hold on. It was successfully... overturned the ban. Yeah. That got appealed to basically Trinidad's High Court, which basically on technical grounds reinstated the ban because the grounds on which it had been overturned couldn't be used for that kind of law. So now activists there, one activist in particular, a guy named, where is his name? I can't find it. Something Jones. But anyway, he's been super active in pursuing
Jesse
this.
James Jones? No, that's Rose. Never mind.
No. But anyway, what he's doing now is taking it to basically the Commonwealth Court, which is basically the overarching Supreme Court of Supreme Courts, and hoping to get this overturned there. And it could have very significant impact, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but in other Commonwealth countries as well.
Yes.
And also have impact outside of just sodomy laws, because it will address the issue of these legacy laws from when they were colonies that some of them have to keep because of the way their independence was structured. And this will hopefully give them a venue to start shedding some of those. So it's an important and interesting case. It has just been, the hearings have just started on it, so it's something to watch.
We go back to that map of safe and not safe areas for trans people in the U.S. and see that bifurcation of East and West being okay. Oh, look at our director throwing that right up. But this story just reminds me of how divided the world is and how tough it is to bring people into a common understanding. And we're in the middle of the struggle. And sometimes I love being in the middle of the struggle. I think it's a great privilege to be part of the struggle, but it gets wearying.
I will be going down to Trinidad in less than a week to speak at a birding conference, and they're just going to have to deal with big old gay me because I'm not going to be anything else while I'm down there.
Well, I hope it turns out well.
I think.
And the birds are suffering from all this anti-environmental stuff that the Trump administration is doing.
Of course.
How dare they?
Anyway.
And, of course, is Patti LuPone still suffering on the Atlantis cruise ship, which was rejected by Turkey from landing at a port in Turkey and now has been rejected by Egypt. And the interesting thing is these cruises have successfully docked in these countries for several years. Mm-hmm. And it is only now that they are being turned away. And I wonder whether Mr. Trump might have had some influence on that.
I think it may be just a matter of a general, more conservative turn in a lot of places, not just the U.S.
Yeah.
And that once Turkey did it, then Egypt was like, oh, no, we can't be seen to be, letting this in when Turkey has turned it away. Probably the name of the ship, the Scarlet Lady, didn't help, but.
Lindsey Graham was known as Lady G.
Yes, I'd heard that.
Yes.
But anyway, the ship eventually made port in Montenegro. I have read that everyone had a wonderful time. But, I, for one, don't make plans to travel in those kinds of places if I can avoid it.
No, but thank you to Patti LuPone for speaking out and standing up. I still maintain the best thing I ever saw on Broadway was Patti LuPone being interviewed by Seth Rudetsky in a benefit for Broadway Cares.
Oh.
It was just a fantastic evening. Anyway, and in Switzerland, Lucerne is the sixth Swiss city to join the International Rainbow Cities Network. So
Awesome.
there are trends in that direction, too.
2 quick notes from Canada. A far-right political leader has defaced a rainbow crosswalk and put it up on his video on his X Twitter page, which was somewhat incriminating. Therefore, he was arrested. And then one of his minions went out and did it again, and they were arrested. So, Canada, as much as we like to think of it as a safe haven, they have their right-wing turn too. And that's something to keep an eye on in the separatist vote in Alberta.
Yes.
Basically, the red state of Canada is the province of Alberta.
Yeah.
And if they do end up voting for independence, that's going to empower a lot of right-wingers.
Trump will try to annex them here.
Oh, he's already tried to put his finger on that scale.
But he'll try to get it to join the U.S. so that he can have more right-wingers in a new red state
and
here.
more oil.
All right, AIDS news.
Massachusetts passed its first in the nation protections for HIV prevention. Basically, what they've done is they've codified protections for HIV, funding for HIV, no matter what the federal government does, because they are afraid that things will get yanked, which is perfectly reasonable, rational fear at this point.
And this is about PrEP for all post or pre-exposure prophylaxis. Fully covered, no co-pays, deductibles, prior authorization, and this applies to private and state insurance companies.
All right.
And finally, entertainment news. Andy is very excited because his favorite production, Heartstopper, is now in the form of a movie, Heartstopper Forever, available on Netflix this week on Friday the 17th. And yes, I finally took a look at the Emmy nominations. There are thousands of them, but Cherry Jones is nominated for her guest role on Hacks.
Which was awesome.
It really was. And the game show hosts, RuPaul, Alan Cumming, Kristen Kish, and Ariana Madix.
Gay. And finally, I have something that I lied to Anne about. I told her I had a review to do, and I don't. Instead, I have this. This is actually because I've been doing this as a co-host or a substitute co-host with Anne for a long time. I believe the first time I did it might have been with you.
I think so.
And I was like a nervous wreck. And she just had this way of just putting me completely at ease. And after that, I was like, oh, this is no big deal. So to thank Anne, and as a going away president, because this is the last time, at least as you as a regular host, we'll be doing this together, I got her a little retirement gift, which is...
This is a total surprise.
This is a gift certificate to Palm Springs golf courses. Can be used on multiple Palm Springs golf courses.
Wow!
Because I know she's going to be playing a lot of golf in her retirement.
And I've never been to Palm Springs.
And I've been trying to get her to, because these days I spend my winters in Palm Springs.
Yes.
And I'm like, come out. So, and this is for you.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much. Oh, that's so great. Thank you. All right, so this is, I'm on the countdown. I've just got a couple more shows to go. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to Chris, and we'll be back next week with Kathy Marino-Thomas.